Well, hello. Welcome to episode 318 of Hobby Hotline. I'm Danny, and I think Chris's camera is going to kick in a second here. He's uh, he's in a bad weather area, but we've got some great content this morning. Um, Let me start out by saying episode 318 again because that's crazy to me. Mad City Brew, good morning. He said, who didn't catch the Otani ball? I am filing suit also for that. I watched it in one piece. Abel, good morning. Ruben, pulling the overnight shift with me here. I'm just here to help Mike Petty put the show on all the TVs at Best Buy. That's one of my favorite. It's a tradition like no other with Hobby Hotline. Got some great topics today. Chris Carlin is calling in from the Music City Card Show, so we're going to have him joining us hopefully shortly. But I did want to start off before Chris gets here talking about the Otani 50-50. The ball, um, it's already gone crazy. Yes, good morning. First day of life without Carl Anthony Towns in Minnesota. He's now a New York Knick. I wonder what that does for his cards. That's got to be a big uptick in the cards going to that market. Sad for Minnesota though, and they got eliminated. Twins got eliminated last night. Rough in Minneapolis, but so Otani 50-50. How much do you guys think that ball's going to go for? That's the biggest question. I'll admit I undershot it. My guess would have been between 500,000 and 1,000,000, and I think it's blowing right past that. So I wonder what you guys think. There you go. One more home run, Otani will be 55. How relevant is the ball? 60-60. If he could get to 60-60, that I think would be a little bit more relevant. Bob, Danny finally knocked the others to get his own bench clear show. Hardly, Bob. We got some people fighting some tough situations, health and weather. So, just trying to pick up the load here and appreciate the chat room today. You guys are going to help carry the show, so don't be afraid to tap in. And let me put the link in the chat also. So if anybody wants to jump on, please feel free. And hopefully you're in better weather than Chris Carlin is. So what do you guys think that ball is going to go for? Mike, we've got some sick people and some people fighting some weather down south. So I'm going solo here. Stooks might have some big time bidders from his home country in Japan, maybe a 1.5 million. Does that end at 1.5 million? Like I said, I would have guessed between 500,000 and 1,000,000, and it looks like it's going to fly by that. And this is a good question. What if next year he does 60-60 or does 50-50 again? Does that ball carry the same price if it's not the only time? And how about Ronald Acuna last year going 40-70? Does anybody have more respect for that now? Because that was pretty impressive. And here he is, Chris Carlin. What's going on?
Well, there's some weather out here in Nashville, so apologize. It had to get a different Wi-Fi setup going.
Not a problem at all. So why don't you tell everybody where you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, so the Music City Card Show is a pretty cool event. It's actually in a bowl. I want to show you. It's kind of cool, the setup. But you've got dealers all over the place here. About 200 tables. Very eclectic mix of collectibles here. What I think is really cool. I love to shows where I just see the same stuff over and over again, and they have a lot of music, memorabilia, signed guitars, signed albums, things you wouldn't normally see. and then a tremendous amount of, there's always the football, basketball, but a tremendous amount of wrestling is here, which is really kind. And the thing that blew my mind yesterday is, I'm here before the show starts, and there's a booth called Cool Zoo, and I guess it's a nonprofit that's designed to expose people to unique animals. But there was just a little kangaroo chilling in a cage in in their booth, and then they had crocodile that you could hold. They had baby monkey. Um,
That's
God,
crazy.
what else? There's a snake, and then the one I had to do was they had a sloth. So when am I going to ever hold a sloth? I did it,
I'm not even sure.
and it was pretty cool. So I've never seen that at a card show, but it's definitely made it unique for sure. So
The
PSA's here
petting zoo
taking in submissions, but what's that, Danny?
sounds like a petting zoo with a card show.
Kind of. Again, I'd never seen anything like that before, so that was pretty unique. And then we're also doing authentication for a lot of the show signers. This show in particular is driven by show signers. Mike Tyson's the headliner. A lot of other names, Lenny Dykstra, Johnny Bench, those types. So, I think it's going to. The weather kept a lot of people away last night, but tomorrow I think we're going to be extremely busy here, and it's a really good venue out in Franklin. So if you're in the Tennessee area, definitely come on down to the Music City Show, and we'll take in your PSA subs or authenticate any items that you get done at the show.
Um, and something that's very important right now in the hobby is definitely protecting stuff. And I know you wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, one thing that I saw quite frequently in my years at Upper Deck was loss. Collectors having loss. Obviously, the wrong reasons would be theft, things along those lines. But there was also loss on things that could have been prevented a bit. Fire is extremely damaging to collectibles, obviously, uh, but water is as well. And moisture, as most of us seasoned collectors know, really screws up trading cards. So I dealt with quite a few customers who had lost their entire collections because they had things in the basement or on the first floor, and on the ground, and they lost everything. And it's really heartbreaking when you see someone's personal items that they're so close to, that are so unique and so awesome, lost like that. So as I look at what's happening in North Carolina in particular right now, and thoughts and prayers to everyone out there, it makes you realize, as a collector, you've got to be smart about how you're storing your items, and having them up high is a really good idea. Not to pimp PSA's vaulting service, but there's a lot of different services out there in the market to store your cards in that are secure and in a very safe environment. So I would encourage collectors to look at that, but be vigilant, and you don't plan that much for disasters, but when they come, they can be just crippling, especially for collectibles. So very important that collectors are doing their due diligence to make sure their items are insured correctly, and B, they're storing it in the right ways. So I don't know if you've had any experience with that, Danny, but it's a tough one when people lose everything that they've worked so hard to build.
Sadly, I had my entire collection stolen when I was younger, um, and it's affected me as a collector the rest of my life. I always try to have one of the hobby insurance companies as a sponsor because I do believe it's important to protect your collection. Vaulting, whatever method you feel most comfortable, even a safety deposit box, but definitely it's super important. Um, we were talking
Yeah,
before you.
I also had a kid come and visit me when I was like 13, 14. Stayed with us for a couple days. And he was really intrigued by my collection, and I was tickled that anyone was interested in the cards that I had been putting together. But a week later, I went through all my cards and found where were all my best ones, and came to the
Ooh,
sad realization that he had ripped me off. And
ooh.
it's a bummer. It's a bummer. It's a real betrayal. But you're right. It always sticks with you, and that violation of trust is a tough one. That just bums me out. And I see it a lot in shops where you'll have just really kind of heartbreaking stuff. You're a shop owner. You get into this because you love the hobby. You're passionate about it, and then you have kids coming in and stealing from you. Or the worst one that I was talking to one of my shop owners about was a father and son working together, if you can believe that. And just such a bummer that part of the hobby exists. But it is a tough one. And again, you got to be vigilant. You got to keep be aware of your surroundings, and make sure you're being smart when you're at shows, events, with your prize collectibles.
And a shout out or a comment to the sports card shop in Moco, and those guys. Unfortunately, had a break in a couple of weeks ago, so it affects a lot more people than we hear about. And
Yeah.
let me give them a shout out here. Two locations, the sports card shop. Guys, support your local LCSs. It's important for the community, and be vigilant is good advice, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, so before you hopped on, we were talking a little Shohei Otani and the 50-50 ball. Uh, some comments. I thought the ball would go somewhere between a 500,000 and 1 million, and clearly it's going to surpass that.
Yeah,
Mike Petty.
I thought 1.5 to 2 million. I had a bartender actually text me and ask me what I thought it was going to go for, but that's interesting, right? When you have people out of the hobby asking you about these items, that means it's really getting some mainstream attention. So with that attention, you just need two bidders to go crazy on something, and who knows what'll happen. So it'll be fun to watch because I think there's 18 days left and it's over 1 million already.
Yeah, it's something like that, and I haven't checked since I went to bed. It could be another million. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, but somebody and I lost the comment in here, if I can find it. But it shows his popularity. Here it is. Might have some big time bidders from his home country in Japan. Uh, Maybe 1.5 million, or maybe more. His popularity is far more than Dodgers fans and American baseball fans. And I know that you've got some experience with the popularity of the hobby in Asia, and the players over there. Can you talk about a little bit just about how much that's a booming hobby area?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why PSA's, collectors' second headquarters was in Tokyo, to make sure that we're servicing the needs of that community, which it is driven a lot by TCG, a lot of Pokemon submitted for sure, but uh, in terms of sports, he's number one far and away. And I saw it firsthand at the start of the year. I was lucky enough to take my family to Seoul for the opening series in Korea between the Padres and Dodgers. And I was shocked at how many Japanese fans were in attendance. And there was a guy outside dressed up like Otani, and just uh, signs, Otani, and his dog, pictures of it, like they are going crazy for him. Not to do that, but it's also really interesting how we started the year and how where we're at right now. And what I mean by that, Danny, is he had that gambling scandal starting the season. We didn't know if he would even play
Right.
baseball again for a hot minute, and it caused some of his collectibles to, I wouldn't say plummet, but they dropped a bit for a while there. And some smart people probably made some good moves there, good investments. But it's pretty wild to see how his name was a little tarnished to start the season, and now he isn't just elevated as the best player in the league. He's seen by many as the best player of all time. So it's pretty crazy that the roller coaster ride his season has taken. Right?
And now we even have a lawsuit with people fighting over the ball. So showing, what this has come to. Um, is and I don't know if it'll hold up. But have you seen the video of it yet?
Yeah, and I think there was something similar to this with the McGuire home run chase, uh, and I don't think they won. Possession is 9/10 the law, and it doesn't go really well, but for their chances to get it. But guess your thoughts?
Yeah, I think in the previous one the judge made them split the money or something like that. Um, I saw the video. I don't think the 18-year-old had the ball. I think
Yeah,
I think I've chased foul balls before. It's a little bit rough at the bottom of the scrum.
yeah.
And if you're going to dive on cement and over metal chairs, and you come away with it, then even if I don't, like that the younger kid got beat for it, what was the comment Bob put on here? Kids learn that life ain't fair at the ballpark.
It's true.
So there's a lot of meanings to that. Um, Interesting comment to your point. As long as something like gambling doesn't derail his career, aka Conseco, and others with steroids. Um, will it follow him around? I think is the big thing. If it never comes up again, then it might be people who forgot that Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays got suspended at one point for being in casinos.
Yeah, it's such an interesting deal. I think the Padres had a player that was banned last year. He was like a tertiary player, but it happens. Like they investigate. The MLB seems to take it seriously, but on a player of Shohei's caliber, it's interesting for sure.
Well, there was always the rumors about, and I don't know how much you can say with Michael Jordan and his off the court proclivities, and why he may or may not have played baseball. One of my favorite all time rumors was that that's how the NBA got rid of him for a year, was he went to play baseball. So nothing like a good story getting in the way of facts.
It's hard too because athletes, especially Jordan, is so they're just so competitive. And one of my favorite collectibles I own is a Jordan signed Joker card. And where did this come from? Well, he was playing golf with Raleigh Fingers and a couple other players, and it started raining. So they came inside and started playing poker because, if Jordan can't beat you on the golf course, he's going to beat you at the poker table. And Raleigh is a pretty sharp guy. So Michael asked him for something, and Raleigh took the two jokers out of the deck and said, "Yeah, I'll do that. Just give me two signatures." So I've got one of those jokers, and it's funny that it ties to that poker game that one day and a cold rainy day at a golf course. So um, Jordan definitely loves that, but I think any player who's competitive likes that. You look at Pete Rose, so competitive, so fiery, but they like that thrill, that competition off the field too, and it's um, MLB just is pretty hardcore on their rules, and I don't blame them.
Um, Mike Petty says that after he fought some kids for a ball, he did buy them new drinks, but he left with the ball. All's fair and war in baseball.
Yeah,
Um,
you take care of the kids. That's why you bring some trading cards. Give them some cards. You're good to go.
yeah, exactly. Cooter says, "What would Mays have done if he didn't have to play in the field and not worry about pitchers throwing at him?" I guess that's a comparison to Otani. Could he have been a 50-50 guy? I would say with
Yeah,
the new rules and the new bases, probably. And I think we have to acknowledge that for Otani.
yeah, and I mean just everything. It's so hard talking about generation against generation. I mean, what would Willie Mays have been if he would have had the training regimens and the nutrition and things along those lines that we have today? Every player would have been better. So it's hard to say, but it's always a fun discussion. That's for sure.
Well, this is stats like this. Mays wore a hat, not a batting helmet, for 15 years.
It's crazy, right? Like
I
you wouldn't even
mean,
think it's possible, but yeah,
I
it's
can
a
tell you
man.
right now, I, I do not have the inner fortitude to stand in there without a helmet. That's not going
No
to happen.
way. No way.
Um, don't forget the larger bases. Absolutely a true point on Otani.
That is true.
Um, yep.
Yeah. That you know what?
And
No one's been talking about that either, and it does help.
and the limited pickoff moves. I think I think the limited
Yeah,
pickoff
for
moves
sure.
make a big difference. Says Mays also had
Yeah.
the wonderful conditions at Candlestick. I mean, it's a very good point. You know, if you would put Mays in the same conditions as Otani or somebody else, well, you know, you can say that for anybody, but I think Mays with his skill set was probably the closest to the 50-50. But Ronald Acuna last year, I was saying earlier, I think we have to look at 40-70 again with a lot of respect.
Yeah.
Um, Shohei also has a shot at the Triple Crown. I don't know if he'll get it this year, but I think for his career, he's got a shot any year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what his workload is like when he starts pitching again. So he's going to need more days off, obviously. So uh, we'll kind of see how that goes. But he's such an anomaly, right? Like it's fun to watch him unless he's playing your team. Uh, but yeah, it's it's a special time to see an athlete like this. It reminds me a lot of Tiger in his prime, Mike Tyson in his prime. You know, he's kind of must see TV anytime he's up. It's very interesting to watch. So I'm excited for the playoffs. It'll be really interesting to see if he does something exciting there and only elevates his name more. So, but it's one of those things, Danny. Like, how high do you think Shohei collectibles can go? And I think we'll get a good barometer of that with this baseball. But he is like the Like, there's not a lot of athletes that are so high and in terms of value and their ceiling. But his ceiling just seems to continue to elevate. It's wild. I outside of Jordan, I can't think of another athlete quite like it.
I do think that there's a little bit of a Shohei bubble of enthusiasm, and they're selling the ball at the perfect time. Getting it right to auction to me was the move. I don't think you're going to get more after the season or anything else.
Yeah, yeah,
How
it was really impressive how quickly Golden got that and started marketing it immediately. And again, the one thing you could say what you want about Ken Golden, but he does get eyeballs, and the news coverage on this so far has been interesting. But when we're on that second to last day and the last day, when it finally sells, I think it's just going to be even more massive interest in it. And again, I think it's good for the entire hobby where this type of mainstream coverage of our category only benefits us by having more people learn about it, more people go back and discover cards again or collectibles, and uh, it just makes it a lot of fun. I think when there's more people in the room. Like yesterday, this show was a little dead, and now you could see it is popping down there. So really cool to see the hobby continue to be so healthy um, in the face of other distractions out there. Like coming out of COVID, people started vacationing again and going places and spending their money in different ways than they were during the pandemic on their hobbies. And it's nice to see that the trading card and collectibles category remains very, very strong.
Um, yes, absolutely. Uh, Adam at Splendid Sports Car says, "I love Otani, but I wish he wasn't playing during a mass-produced era of cards. Does anyone even know what his best cards are?" There's a fair point, Chris. Do you think, in general, some players get oversaturated?
Well, I can tell you from the manufacturing standpoint, when I was at Upper Deck, we had you could make more releases. Just because you made 20 releases last year didn't mean you couldn't make 30 releases the next year. Uh, but what we would always tell the league and the Players Association is that at Upper Deck, we each set needed to have a reason to be. This one's for technology collectors. This one's for autograph collectors. This one's for game used collectors. So you each one would need to be able to have merit to stand on its own. And unfortunately, I think if you're a shop owner in particular, you know probably better than anyone that there have been some releases that we probably could have done without, uh, especially when you have 30, 40, 50, 60 releases of a particular sport each year. And then, the fact that I did share that the hobby is booming. Like
Yeah,
they've
exactly.
got to make enough product for all those folks, which means that there's more produced, there's more people in the hobby, but it bodes well for sets that are 25 years old and older. I would say where they were made at levels which would be considered minuscule today. Uh, so the population on those products 25 years ago, we usually say 25 is the golden number, but you see print runs that are much 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 less. So yes, it is interesting that this is all happening at a time when there are a lot of trading cards. You can just look at what his Tops Now 50/50 card, how many of those they sold. And
Hundreds of thousands.
yeah, and it goes to show you that there's a lot of collectors out there, and um, they don't mind that. They don't always mind uh, that there's so many of them. They just want to have a piece of history, and that's what trading cards are about. So it's hard to get mad at that when people want to collect them and be a part of what I think is a really awesome hobby.
The Tops Now concept, when they have one chase card and hundreds of thousands of base cards, are we almost getting into a lottery system where
Danny,
people
I saw a lot of comments as the Shoheis were arriving, and people were kind of crushed that I only got base cards. Well, yeah, there were hundreds of thousands made. So I would say the experience, while it's great that Topps does these chase elements, whether it be autographed inserts or numbered inserts or different parallels. Uh, it's also creating a bad experience when people's expectations are so high and they don't land. So the one good thing I will say about Tops Now cards is they grade really well. I've submitted about probably 300 in my time here at PSA, and I think only one's got a 9. So I will give them kudos. They make a good quality card for that set. So
and a
um,
good quality protective case, clearly.
yeah, yeah.
Somebody had a comment here that I thought was good. Something to the effect of, with this many cards being produced, how can the value go up? And I think it's sort of a staggered approach. The high end pulls cards up, and there's a chain reaction. Um, and I think natural enthusiasm can drive the lower part of the market also, because you have more people coming in just to grab an Otani card. With this many being produced, do you think it's sustainable for value to go up?
Well, it's tricky. The one thing that I would be leery of is we've been in this utopia now for a few years for the hobby, just this resurgence. The one thing that could sidecar this whole industry is a labor dispute in one of the major sports. I think it would probably be football that would happen first, but I've seen firsthand what it can do on the manufacturing side. When you sign up, you still have to pay the leagues and the players associations and the athletes, and you still I often say, and Upper Deck's president Jason Mashiro used to say this a lot too. The trading card manufacturers are as nimble as an oil tanker. They can see problems coming, but it's very hard to veer away from the iceberg or whatever it may be ahead. And and that's a problem. So while the rookies have been doing a good job and the stars have been superstars as of late, the one thing I think would be difficult is if there's a labor dispute, because kind of everything comes to a halt. People, when they see millionaires fighting with billionaires, it's a bad situation, and we've been blessed that we haven't had one in a while. But they come up about once a decade, and they're not good for our industry at all. So as long as the leagues and players associations can continue playing nice together, I think we're set up for long term success. But it always comes up sooner or later. So we'll see how it goes.
Wasn't it The Godfather where they said every so often you have to clear the bad air and go to the mattresses? So,
Yeah.
something like that. Okay, I'm a big believer, and I love the Topps buyback program. And I think it's a great thing for people to get into their local card shops, but it's based upon the MLB awards. Is there anybody other than Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani? Is this a runaway? I mean, not really Bobby Witt Jr.
I
I mean,
mean,
I
there's a
can't
lot
think.
of yeah, there's a lot of tertiary players that are great, but yeah, I think those two guys are the guys, right? Like it can't really be that close. Like I think Cy Young and other awards might be more competitive. Rookie of the Year is very competitive, especially in the NL between Skeens and Merrill. But yeah, we'll kind of see what happens, and it's always fun to watch. But yeah, for MVP, I don't see anyone beating those two.
I think it's fascinating the people who stock up as early as possible on their predictions for the winners, and for the buyback, try to get as much credit as possible. There there's an incentive program there.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, I often say I collect a lot of entertainment cards as well, and I knew to buy Wolverine cards, Hugh Jackman cards and Ryan Reynolds cards 2 years ago because they announced that this was happening and Hugh Jackman was going to be in it, and you knew there would be interest when the movie came out. So you can do it a little easier on the entertainment side. I think there's a little more path to predictability. Daredevil has a new big show coming out, so now's a good time to buy it before it hits. But very similar with the top spyback program on baseball. So it'll be interesting to see if they extend that. I would imagine they would to NFL and NBA when they take those licenses on, and even if they extend it to wrestling or UFC would be kind of unique or cool. You imagine, someone's fighting in a UFC match, and then next day you could take your cards and for the winner and get cash back for them. That would be pretty cool. So they're trying a lot of unique things at Tops. I really, when Michael Eisner bought Tops, we all believed that he would bring these dynamic programs to the hobby that would create more interest in it and elevate the category as a whole, and it didn't really happen. But we're definitely seeing that with Michael Rubin. They
Yeah.
are between Fanatics Fest, the buybacks, the Tops Rip Nights. There's just the partnership they did with Sotheby's. There's just a lot of things that they are doing that are elevating the category and taking it to another level. So I'm uh, while it's easy to bash Tops for this, that, or the other, or making so many cards, they're just giving people what they want at the end of the day, and it's kind of hard to fault them for that. But they've done a tremendous job of marketing the category, that's for sure.
You mentioned it. The Holy Grail auction was very cool. If people haven't seen some of the items, and speaking of that, the Otani card superfractor from there was a beautiful and gorgeous card. Um, Cooter says the contrived scarcity of serial numbers is not true scarcity. I've been saying that forever. A card is hot until it's not because there's a new hot chase. Sell while you can. The Otani ball is 500,000 in 5 years. I agree with a lot of that, Chris. I
Yeah, I mean,
do.
if you open up Leaf Pop Century, you're getting a 101 in every box, but there's 58 different parallels to those 101s. So is it really, as rare as you think? Um, yeah, I think that there's been maybe a chase to the bottom with regard to serial numbered cards and how frequently they fall and um, just how many are really out there. So I agree with that as well.
I think there's a correlation between that and the one-on-one prices and the bounties that seem to be going up. I think that's the reverse. Is people now, you can't fake a one-on-one.
Yeah, the bounties are really interesting. You have different dealers offering these bounties. Grand Slam, Nathan Burns over at Grand Slam, and Giannis even getting in on that triple Olympics auto has been. It's it gives us something to talk about. It's fun, but it's exciting that there is that level of interest in some of these cards. So it's it's fun to see uh, the thrill when people can score one of those bounties. I was just talking with Adam Martin from Dave and Adams. He's purchased a lot of these bounty cards. And I said, it's about time we probably get those in a PSA slab. He's like, yeah, you're probably right. So we're talking to him about that right now. But yeah, it's that portion of the business is really interesting, and it's fun to see how in the Star Wars community on Facebook, there's a lot of groups where they'll do a bounty hunt, and you basically bid in real time on the image shown that's coined, which is kind of fun too. So it's really interesting how collectors will take things off eBay or off auction sites and kind of do it their own way in order to save on those fees that are tied to that. But I always feel like if you have a really special collectible, um, you're gonna realize the best from it through going through an auction house or going through eBay. So they just have so many more eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Mookie says Jabba has a bounty for Han Solo.
Oh, 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 oh. Yeah. See, bounties were
uh,
even popular a long, long time ago in a
I
galaxy
was about
far,
to
far
say
away.
the puns aren't stopping. Bounty hunt in a Star Wars group. So, uh,
I
you
know,
you
I know. We're all you gotta just go with it.
the group is dad jokes and Star Wars. I love it. Um, okay, I think we got to touch on some. I think two interesting stories. The Chicago White Sox set the record for worst record ever, and the Oakland A's are no longer the Oakland A's. I think both of these. I think both of these are interesting. The White Sox. Um, I mean, what do you say? It's a lottery now. They're not even guaranteed the first pick, um, and it just seems like everything's gone wrong in that organization for a while now.
It's sad to see because that collecting community is so great. I think if you're in Chicago, 3/4 of people collect Cubs over White Sox, but there's still been some great names and passionate fans for that team. So yeah, it's hard to watch. It's hard to see. Um, but if you look at some of the successful clubs, that chemistry is a real thing. And when teams, when you genuinely like the people that you're playing alongside, you make plays that you wouldn't normally make. You do things. So I think you know at the end of the day, they're a professional baseball club. Like it's not like there's been massive expansion in MLB that's watered down the product. It's just, I think, a situation where maybe some people you got to change people out here and there to find the right chemistry that works for the team. So, and then Oakland A's, I, uh, I just think it's going to be interesting in Sacramento in particular because it gets really hot up there. We're playing on turf, so that's going to be heating up all day. So I know they're going to try to play a lot of the games in the evening, but yeah, it'll be a wild experience. Kind of like when the Chargers played in that soccer stadium for a year, and it just felt really
Yep.
weird. But hey, you get a different fan experience. So I know I'm going to try to go to one of those games. I think it'll be something to see and say back in my day, I saw the Oakland A's playing Sacramento, the Las Vegas A's. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but it'll be interesting to watch.
I mean, during the COVID year, people forget the Blue Jays played in a AAA park.
Yeah, yeah, in
You
Buffalo,
know,
right?
yeah, yeah. So stuff has happened before. I just think it's sad for the history of the A's. I know
Totally.
that they came from Kansas City, but they've been so synonymous with Oakland over the years and the great teams in the '70s, Charlie Finley. Um, and I put in the chat, best players ever for the White Sox and the A's. Just curious. And Bob says Frank Thomas and Catfish Hunter. Stuke says Joe Jackson and Jimmy Fox. Hard to argue with them. Um, they're
I like
storied
Reggie Jackson.
franchises.
He came other
Yeah.
places, but he started in Oakland. So his documentary was really interesting. I think it was on Amazon, Reggie Jackson's. But he talked a lot about those early Oakland teams, and they were good. Like they hustled. So yeah, it's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a car collection as well,
Yeah,
to say
yeah. Some
to
people
say the
collect
least.
cards. Some people collect cars. Yeah.
You're right, exactly. Um, all right, and just to finish it up, some new products came out. From a general standpoint, because we were talking about players associations, how do you feel about logo versus non-logos?
I
I
hate
know.
non-logo. Like I really don't like it, um, but I still have some. Like I just bought a Panini card of Dylan Cease because the patches were just so dang cool. Uh, and the price was really low. So um, yeah, I think there are some bargains you could find for it, but uh, it's hard. It just feels weird. It feels inferior, and especially if you're buying a premium product, uh, it's right as your pack opening experience happens. Unless it's done well, the experience kind of sucks. So it's interesting to see what Topps is doing with that regard with some of the football and basketball releases they've had. But yeah, I don't like it. I know collectors don't like it. I'm sure you probably don't like it either.
I've never liked, pajama cards or whatever you want to call them, until I actually thought the tops this year was one of the better ones I've seen in some time. Um, it's still not my first choice. I still want the logo. But if you look at the
Yeah,
Joe Montana, Walter Payton rookies, I mean, there was different reasons, but they don't have full licensing on there. So I'm not totally opposed to the idea. However, if I'm purchasing a card and I'm choosing between two cards, I'm buying the logo 100 out of 100 times.
yeah. I will say in terms of pack opening experience, I really enjoy Allen and Ginter and Goodwin Champions. I think both those products are a lot of fun, and yeah, a lot of the athletes are in their street clothes, but when you're getting Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Ken Griffey Jr., there's chances at precious metal gems, or when you're opening up Allen and Ginter and you're just pulling weird stuff. Like it is a fun experience to open those products that are player licensed, not league licensed. But one of my favorite sets we ever did at Upper Deck, I think it was about 2000. It was called Superstars, and it was a licensed product that featured different leagues. And I don't know how we negotiated them doing it. I think we were only able to do it 1 year. Baseball had some rules where I think it had to be 50% of the set had to be baseball, and other leagues didn't love that. So you're doing all this back and forth, and but to feature like have game used inserts or signed inserts where all the players are from the same city was really cool. And you have a baseball player with a basketball player with a hockey player in their league uniforms, was really special. So sometimes you can catch lightning in a bottle like that and make a set like that, but it's very very difficult to pull off with players associations. However, I will say I would fully expect that Tops would do more of this as they take control of more licenses. Even potentially, they recently secured the Marvel license, um, potentially merging Marvel and sports, like
Yeah.
we had seen in some early days with Athletes Illustrated and things along those lines. It could be really compelling and unique. So there's been the start of sketch cards in the sports card market, but they could really take that to another level by marrying Star Wars and an athlete, or you see it already with Juan Solo and bobbleheads instead of Juan Soto for Star Wars nights and things like that. So these things are already starting to happen. Star Wars nights are one of my favorite nights to go to the ballpark with my kids because there's people in costume. It's so fun and unique. It's just a different vibe. But I would absolutely expect to see that extended to the collectibles market, which could make for some really compelling releases that again get more mainstream attention and more mainstream news, which draws more people to the category. So when Topps says they want to 10x the hobby, the thought of that to me as a collector is really scary because I kind of like the hobby as it is right now. But the thought of there being so many more people in the industry is actually a good thing because it makes all of our collections more valuable if more people are going after them and are interested in the category. So it's hard to be mad at it. It's definitely better than manufacturers who sit on their laurels and don't take action to grow. So uh, it's one of those weird things where it's hard to be mad at, but it's tough because you like it the way it is.
You talked about Allen Ginter and Goodwin Champions. I pulled a watermelon last year. Um, and that I love those sets. But if those became Marvel characters instead of watermelons, um,
Imagine if
yeah, right.
the
I mean,
egg actually sells pretty well.
does the egg do well?
Yeah, but
That's hilarious. Abel says Tops introduces all these cool sets and we'll be selling them at 8,000 a box. I will say price affordability is something that's going to be very important in the hobby moving forward. I think that that's something that Fanatics is going to have to look at overall moving forward is price affordability.
especially these direct pricing, you're being offered new boxes, which I'd prefer the experience happens at a hobby shop, but Topps wants to get their cut, which makes sense because they're spending a lot of money. It's not cheap bringing Tom Brady to every event you do all year. But yeah, the prices are pretty jaw dropping in many cases on products that last year were 150 bucks and this year are 300, or and the content's not changing that much, so it's like, oh, what do we do? And we know they're not making less, so it's a tricky one for sure.
Bob
I
says,
feel
"Sorry, son. I'm sorry." Bob says, "Sorry, son. You'll have to go to community college. Tops box is 2 semesters of the university." Mike Petty says, "Did you steal the college fund?" Yes, I did. What of it? And Bob says, "Kids want their old man to be happy." That's what I say. You know what? It's. I know it's tongue in cheek, but there's a real issue out there. People want to collect, and people have to choose where their disposable income goes. And I think at some point the disposable income is more than a plane ticket. Over and over, it does become hard to get kids in. And we get a quick appearance from Brody. What's going on?
Hey, awesome. Speaking of kids,
What's up, guys? Epilepsy hasn't been great this morning, but it's all good. Let's talk some cards.
Oh well, we got to.
man,
Yeah, good to see you, buddy.
See you as well.
I want you to touch on what you put in the chat and your thoughts on Stroud and the National Treasures.
Yeah, so CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. I'm not sure if Will Levis made it as well, but they have sticker autos, I believe, on the checklist. And I saw some posts that people were kind of theorizing maybe they were going to save some stickers that they had for the higher end products, and they're on the checklist. And I think this is something interesting when Fanatics and Tops own the rights to Stroud and um, Jan's autograph rights that they're in national treasures, like this could be a potential lawsuit situation.
Absolutely. Frank says, Brody, hope you have a better day. Great to see you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to see you
Um,
too. It's interesting. I will say that there's times when manufacturers will work together. You know, we'll give you 50 of this athlete's autograph for 250 of this athlete's autograph, so we can at least have a little content. Um, but it doesn't seem to me that Thompson Panini are working together very nicely. So yeah, we'll see what happens there because you know at any event, if those athletes did public signings, you could put a sheet of labels in front of them and pay it, and could potentially happen. So uh, we'll see. It'll be a wild one for sure to see what happens when those hit.
and then, Brody, what was the other topic you wanted to bring up?
Oh, 2024 Luminance football came out and they introduced Future Signatures NIL. So they have some people in college like Arch Manning, Dylan Raiola, Jackson Dart, who's the favorite for Heisman. So it's interesting. Will Panini try to do some NIL deals going forward for sets? And it's kind of the other thought I had was I think the rookies are in their college uniforms. I could be off on that, but at least I thought it was a product that was like that. But is it kind of weird that they're putting people that are in college into an NFL product?
Well, that's a great question because they don't do it in baseball.
Right.
They do minor leagues, you know, in
Mhm.
Bowman, of course. But you know, I can't think of another sport. Basketball, they don't do it, right?
Oh, yeah, because I mean they made that G League set last
Right.
year.
Um,
Yeah, I think
Bob
right
says,
now they're trying to establish their football releases as legitimate, and the best way to do that is include the first signed cards of any player, right? Football and basketball are tremendously driven by rookie content, and to have some XRC type of content in there and have it be the first signed cards in particular for some of these athletes is something that every manufacturer is trying to do right now. One of the issues I think that manufacturers are having is agents are having a field day with this NIL situation. So um, just some of the asks in terms of pricing are a bit crazy. You know, you can hear some of the deals that people are paying. These kids, and are they getting the return on the investment for it? Probably not. And as with the transfer portal, if you have players moving every season, it's hard for that college football fan to be fully invested in them unless they're just speculating and investing in their future like a commodity. So um, I think every manufacturer has to include NIL now. Uh, but how low do they go? Do we start having high school players or things along those lines? It'll be kind of interesting to see. But if LeBron James came out, if he was 13 today, someone would find a way to make an autographed trading card of him and include it in a trading card product because everyone knew of LeBron when he was 13. So there would have been full high school products, I'm sure, and they would have found a way to get him into everything. But that just shows you what a different demographic, or a different lens that the hobby looks through now than it did
Yeah.
5, 10, 20 years ago.
well, and Brody, my thought is it's almost like prospecting, which we haven't really had in football. I mean, you can buy rookie quarterbacks, but this is prospecting times 100. Arch Manning has yet to play a conference game.
Right.
Or start a conference game. So the fact that I mean, he may be great, but we don't know. And you look what happened to Bryce Young. Also, is he ever going to turn into what they thought? Mike Petty makes the comment that C.J. Stroud is middle of the pack quarterback this year, and it's a lot of money for his card. So I think it's interesting to bring the prospecting aspect into the NFL. But as we know, it's a lot more risk, and the quarterback prices are ridiculous. Abel says 2030 tops preschool, Allen and Gunter Chrome. Yes, there
I
we
mean,
go.
you see some of these guys that are in the Panini USA Stars and Stripes, you get like an auto of like a 13, 14-year-old or somebody that's my age, and I'll be like, what the heck, man? You're trying to steal my thunder.
Well, was it Bobby Witt whose only autograph was Stars and Stripes? So there was somebody, and I might have the wrong player, but
That sounds
somebody who Stars
familiar,
and
yeah.
Stripes, yeah, was their only autograph, and that blows me away.
Yeah, it'll be
I
interesting to
loved
see.
when Upper Deck had the USA baseball sets. We had a lot of fun with inscriptions, and when players are younger, you can usually get them to do more, whether it be inscriptions or provide different memorabilia or things along those lines. So um, that is a fun aspect of those prospect type sets. But unfortunately, you got to wait a while to see if those players even pan out. So it's one of those things where you open it one day, there there's like one superstar in there, and then you put it away for 3 or 4 years and go back through, and oh my gosh, I got this guy, I got that guy. So that's why some of those baseball sets are a lot of fun. You get to have almost a secondary pack opening experience after you put them away for a little bit, and the players develop and start hitting the field.
Yeah, that's 100% true because I think I bought a box in 2017 of the Stars and Stripes, and I had a Royce Lewis auto. And like last year is when he finally started to take off, and this year he had another good year. So it's a pretty good card now.
He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He's
he
for
got all
sure.
the talent in the world.
Yeah.
And then you've got a situation who goes out and gets sent down, and his prices, go like a roller coaster. But I like prospecting. Mad City Bruce says, wait to buy or invest for at least 5 years in NFL quarterbacks, unless you love flushing
That's
money
really good
down the drain.
advice.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to pay more, but your hit rate is going to be so much happy. So much better. What should I do with my Chase Element
Well,
2 lines and
I'm
2
out
Astros?
here in Nashville seeing a lot of people spending a lot of money on Will Levis rookies, and Titans haven't had the best year so far. So um, is he the guy? Like you're right. Football and basketball, everyone goes all in on some of these players. Like Victor Wembanyama being the 24th most graded athlete in PSA history is a little frightening, considering how many cards it is or market. So we talked about overproduction or things along those lines before, but people jump all in on these rookies, and it's an interesting prospect because if they turn out to be Greg Oden or Zion Williamson, still okay players, but they're having to get to that level or above. So it's scary.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, one of these guys could tear their ACL and they can never be the same.
Oh, I mean, Anthony Richardson, I don't think anybody knows what he's going to turn into. I mean, he
That's a great
flashed last year. And then, he's having,
I
looks
won't
like
collect him just because of the size of his signature. He's got a signature like 3 font. It's the most annoying thing in the world. Fill the
It's almost
page,
like he's
Anthony.
trying to play a joke on us. He just keeps making it smaller.
That's really funny. Mike Petty laughing at the 24th highest graded player is Wembanyama, another nickname guy like Zion. Yeah, I mean, some of those guys, they almost go viral with their cards where everybody's grading every base card and everything else. So, all right, well, we're almost on the home stretch here. Chris, what are you hoping to get done at the show this weekend? Submissions, take care of problems, all your normal?
Yeah, it's really fun going. PSA's been going to more, so you can see where we're going to be at next at psacard.com/show. Doing a lot of in-store events, and the reason why is people just don't like putting their cards in the mail. And also, people just have a lot of questions about all the different services we offer and what to check. So, holding people's hands through the process. If you can get someone through the grading process once, it's very easy for them going forward. So we're investing a lot in getting out in front of collectors and trying to help them navigate the grading landscape, because as we talked about earlier, having your collection slabbed, in particular for insurance, helps a ton, because they know what condition it was in, what grade it's in, and there's comps on what that item is. There's replacement values for those types of things if you do ever suffer a loss. So it's been great to see. I just love seeing people, they'll actually try to tip me sometimes, but it's not to get a good grade. It's because they're so happy that they finally have someone that's going to walk them through the process and help them get their first cards graded. So we love that. And I know it can be intimidating walking up to a grading company sometimes at a show, but we have some of the friendliest staff you'll ever meet. So definitely, if you see PSA at a show or a shop, stop by, say hi. And if you've got questions, we've got answers. So happy to help with any of that.
Awesome. And Brody, are you opening anything new or looking forward to anything?
I just did find some new Prism WWE blasters, Crusade baseball, which I'm gonna upload that. That was a fun video, cool product. And tonight I'll be watching some college football. Illinois, Penn State. Take the spread for Illinois. It's way too high. And go Bulldogs. Take down the Tide.
You know what? I'm not a Penn State fan, so I'm rooting with you, Bertie.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Guys, I really appreciated getting through episode 318 today. It was a lot of fun. Thank you to the chat room. As always, fantastic. And I'm not sure who's on next week, but it'll be 3 new faces. And every week on Bench Clear Media, and then releasing later in the week on Hobby Hotline on all the social media there. Chris, Brody, Danny, we're out.
Thanks, guys.